It's a name that's synonymous with motorcycles. People will call sport bikes ninjas when they don't know what they are. It's the lime green, 4-cylinder screaming bike that people know and love. And it has a rich history tracing back decades and throughout many bikes. Let's find out how Kawasaki built the Ninja brand and how we got to the sport bikes we know today. Let's start off by defining what the Ninja actually is. The Ninja simply refers to a family of sport bikes that Kawasaki makes. That includes a lot of different bikes with a lot of different engines, different ergonomics, and different purposes. They run the gamut from the entry-level Ninja 300 all the way to the Ninja H2, a supercharged rocket ship designed to annihilate almost anything in a straight line. To keep things simple, we'll mostly be focusing on the super sport and superbike side of things to trace this lineage, and occasionally we'll mention other notable Ninjas made by Kawasaki. Okay, let's jump in. We start off with the ZX9R, a legendary sport bike that defined much of the modern-day motorcycle that we know today. It was developed in secret for around 6 years, and it was the world's first 16-valve, liquid-cooled, inline 4-cylinder motorcycle. Sound familiar? It was the first stock road motorcycle to clear over 150 miles per hour, and it ran the quarter mile in under 11 seconds. And overall, it was a complete badass of a bike way back in the early 80s. And man, did it look like an 80s bike too. Here's a sound clip of the beast. Still sporting some fairly UJM-style ergonomics, the ZX9R would likely be considered a standard bike by today's comparison, but this bike was the first true Ninja, and it sparked a revolution in the motorcycling world. Fun fact, only 3 months after being unveiled, 3 ZX9Rs were entered into the Isle of Man TT, and they finished first and second place. And it's important to make a distinction between the GPZ line and the later ZX line, because one went full-bore, hardcore sport bike, and the other became the big power sports touring machines, such as the ZX14. Weirdly enough, Kawasaki uses the Ninja branding on both of them. We'll get back to the hardcore sport bike in a sec, but let's see where this GPZ lineage goes. The weird thing is, as Kawasaki evolved the GPZ line, the 900R remained due to its popularity. Bikes like the GPZ 1000RX and the ZX10 Tomcat. That's not to be confused with the ZX10 later on. It gets confusing, I'll explain. The GPZ 900 continued all the way until 2003, being sold alongside the ZZR 1100. The GPZ lineup was well known for being some of the fastest production bikes out there, and that theme continues to this day with the spiritual successor to the GPZ line, the ZX14, a big power sports touring style bike which, despite being overshadowed by today's top shelf leader bikes, is still a rocket ship in its own right, even though it's not nearly as capable or as advanced as the latest ZX10R. The GPZ lineup spawned many other Ninjas, but most importantly, it gave way to a more recognizable Ninja, the Ninja 600R. Following the success of the GPZ, the Ninja 600R was a replacement of the GPZ 550 and came with the GPZ's bottom end. However, it sported a new top end. With a claimed power output of 76 horsepower and weighing 452 pounds, it kinda looks like a piece of ancient tech compared to modern middleweights. However, the 600R did well for Kawasaki. And after a few iterations of this platform came the 1989 ZX7, a leap forward for Kawasaki. Suzuki had their GSX-R 750 and Kawasaki needed to answer. That's where the ZX7 comes in. The ZX7 marked the transition from sports touring / comfy riding ergos to little concessions, full race replica style motorcycling for the street. It was a stark transition and one that Kawasaki was not sure would do well. However, and lucky for us, they were dead wrong. Turns out everyone who was anybody wanted a replica racer motorcycle. In the early 90s, Honda came around and brought the hammer down on the industry with the lightweight, charming new Fireblade. The other Japanese manufacturers were scrambling to answer that call. Prior to that point, you had two styles of bikes. Lighter weight 750cc bikes that handled very well, and then the 1000cc big bore sports touring style bikes that had massive power. Things started to get kind of murky in the 90s with manufacturers experimenting with different engine displacements and ergonomics packages. The Fireblade really defined the segment, and Kawasaki answered the call with the ZX9R. The ZX9R was much heavier than the CBR and produced only a little bit more power. Kawasaki conceded and went with a marketing spiel that clearly gave the value prop as, well, we know it's not as good as the CBR, but it's comfier, I guess. In the early 90s, we also get the separation of Supersport ZX6 and Superbike ZX9. The ZX6 is a darling of the Supersport world, mainly because in 2002, they bumped the displacement to 636 cc's, giving birth to the infamous 636, the cheater 600 class bike that had a little bit of extra torque that made it one of the best and most usable 600s you could buy. After a few years of offering the 636, they went back to the 600cc, only to reintroduce the 636, and the whole time they were also selling homologation-style 599cc proper race replica bikes. Just make up your mind, Kawasaki. Meanwhile, the ZX9 began making its evolution into the ZX10 after a few iterations. It originally came out in 2004, right when the modern-day leader bike began coming into the fold. It's been through several iterations since then and is in its current form, the 2016 Plus, complete with an electronics package, quick shifter, and a Showa balance-free fork. Another Ninja that's not nearly as powerful, but probably has sold way more units is the Ninja 250. Like I said, Kawasaki has stamped the Ninja name on all kinds of different bikes, and one of the most ubiquitous and controversial bikes is the Ninja 250. The 250cc parallel twin right side up forks, easy ergos, and a forgiving chassis. The 250 slowly became the beginner bike, and since it didn't get upgraded or changed for a really long time, it was easy to work on. Another super popular Ninja that's been great for beginners was the Ninja 650, a standard bike that had a great punch from a larger parallel twin and worked great for commuting and cruising around town. One of the rarest and oddball Ninjas was the ZX2R, a competitor to the CBR 250RR, and it's another crazy inline 4-cylinder 250cc bike from the 90s. The 90s were insane, I'm telling you, and yet it still bore the Ninja name. Kawasaki really stamped that name on all kinds of bikes. And that about wraps it up. Kawasaki has a long and rich history that I probably couldn't even begin to cover in this video. It includes a ton of off-road bikes that have been powerhouses as well. But I hope that gives you some color to the Kawasaki Ninja. Thanks for checking out this video, guys. If you haven't yet, give a subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think of other history of bikes you'd like to see. I love seeing suggestions in the comments below. I'm thinking of doing either KTM, Triumph, or Husqvarna next, so let me know what you think. Thanks again.